Alright, so the first thing I had a question about this week was the fact that although I ride a Kawasaki KLR 650, my riding mower is a Husqvarna. And that is true. The difference though is that my Husky is powered by Kawasaki. Well, hey guys, Mason here, and that has been a bit of a crazy week. I did manage to get the headstock bearings replaced this week. There'll be a video on that coming, but it was a really long job and I haven't had a chance to edit that yet. So that's still to come, but regardless, I had a couple of ideas on things that I was questioned on last week's video that we're going to go over today. Now the next question I had was from Ian, and he spotted my brake and clutch lever and wanted to know what they are. Now these are a Warp 9 lever. They're adjustable, which is really nice. They're also spring-loaded forward. Hard to see on the clutch side, but on the brake side here you can see that they're fully spring-loaded and all machined aluminum. They're actually a really nice lever. Now let's get out the OEM ones and see how they compare. I think they're in here. I always carry these with me. They don't weigh anything, and that would ruin a trip pretty quick if you couldn't, if you didn't have a spare lever. So here's the difference in the front brake and clutch. And if we offer it up here, I'm pretty sure these are about the same length. Yep. So the front brake lever is the same length, and the where's the pivot point? Up in there. The clutch lever may be slightly smaller, and I did notice when I put my crash bars on here that the clutch lever was awfully close to the bar, and the Warp 9 lever definitely seemed to fix that, even though it's not much of a difference. But yeah, great. They've been fantastic. I mean, what do you expect out of a clutch and brake lever, I suppose? But these feel really nice. They've got a nice hook to end, and they've stood up really well. Like, I've had no issues. Not that I would expect to. They're fairly protected in there. But like I said, I do carry the two spares with me anyway, just in case. And yeah, so that's the Warp 9 levers. Oh, you're right. We were going to have a look at when I got those. There they are. January 2017. So they did 2017, 18, 19, 20. So 4 years. So these have been on the bike here for 4 years now. And other than hitting them with a little bit of that WD-40 dry lube so it doesn't collect too much dust, that's all they get, and they have been perfect. So there you go, Ian, a little bit more of a review on the Warp 9 levers. I'm sorry guys, I don't have a link for those. You'd have to do your own research on where to get them depending on where you are, but I can say they have been excellent. So something else I just want to touch on today is that 14-tooth front sprocket. Now that I've had the opportunity to do the week-long trip on it, which was a really great mixture of highway running and some fairly serious complicated off-road trails. Now some of the trails that we got into were really rocky, quite steep. We also got into a fair bit of sand, and we went through a bit of water too. And the rocky trails, it was really nice having that lower first gear. Lots of torque down low too, which also helped. And I wasn't stuck following the guys or leading. I just didn't feel like I was in between first and second gear. It really changed things up, even though it's not much of a difference. And but still, it was really helpful to have. Now on the highway side, the bike did sound like it was starting to rev out pretty hard. There was points on the trip where I was getting really close to 6,000 RPM. We did end up having to run some 4-lane highways where it had a 100-kilometer-an-hour speed limit, so we were running 110 to 120, and I was somewhere in between 5,000 and 6,000 RPM when we were running along there. Now, an interesting side note to the 14-tooth front sprocket. I have 28,000 kilometers on this bike. And until I did the 14-tooth sprocket, you guys know that this has never ever used a drop of oil. Now, on the trip, I noticed that I was starting to use a little bit of oil. And I've heard it said before that the KLRs will start burning oil over 5,000 RPM. So that kind of makes sense to me, because around here with the 15-tooth sprocket, you know, we were always under 5,000 RPM for the most part. I mean, you would hit above, but it would just be, it certainly wasn't sustained. After the 14-tooth front sprocket, even around here at 100, just cruising on a regular highway at 100 kilometers an hour, I'm just under 5,000 RPM, like 4,900 RPM. So it's put me 400 or 500 RPM higher than I would normally be running even locally, and that's obviously reflected in a little bit of oil consumption. So that, I would say that that is true. Once you get over 5,000 RPM, I think they just burn a little. Now, we did 1,500 kilometers, and when I left for the trip, my oil level was at the top line, and after 3 days, it was down an eighth from the top mark on the sight glass. So we picked up a liter, and I put a wee little bit in and brought it back up to the top of the sight glass, and when I got home, I would say it was down about halfway between the two marks. It likely equates to, I don't exactly know, a half a liter. So in 1,500 kilometers, I likely burned a half a liter oil on the trip. I mean, that's significant because this bike never used oil before, like I said. But it's not scary. It doesn't really concern me. I mean, I know that I'm stretching it out. I know it's screaming its guts out. And the poor thing, I mean, we did have a couple days where we ran a fair bit of 400 series highway. But then we had whole days on the trail where my RPM was considerably lower. And on those days, I'm going to assume I likely didn't burn anything. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward as I ride more around here with the 14-tooth on and keep an eye now, because I really wasn't paying it attention, but I'll keep an eye now on the oil level and see if there's any consumption locally. So that was interesting. Those of you guys that are noticing oil burn on your KLRs, if you're running a lot of highway or high speed, I think that's likely fairly typical. It is just a massive single. I mean, I don't really expect much else out of it, to be honest. I think it does amazingly well to sustain those speeds, especially at that RPM. That's not fair, is it? But regardless, it did it, it was fine. And it's due for an oil change now, so I'll get that done. And I need to do some chain maintenance. I want to get the chain cleaned up and get some of the sand and dust and debris out of it from the trip. And other than that, we're good to go. Now, I did wake up this morning to 8 degrees outside, so it looks like it's maybe warming up a bit out there now. The sun's out, and I'm hoping to get out for a ride this afternoon and put some more kilometers on the KLR. That's it for me, guys. I hope that you have had a great week. I hope that you're able to get out for a ride, and as always, if you do, mind how you go, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now. Hey guys, if you liked that video, hit the thumbs up button for us. It goes a long way towards helping out the channel. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button in the upper corner for new videos every Sunday. Be glad to have you along for the ride.